Greetings and welcome back to Game Design. This is lesson 5, variables. In this lesson, we are actually going to start the programming concept. So far, everything that we've gone over, this is mostly just how to use GameLab, right? How to get items into GameLab, the size of it, how it works. But this is our first major concept. So it's important that as we go through this, you understand what we're trying to explain going through this. So first, we're going to start with a prediction. Some of the lessons have this. So we'll go to this. Now, when you see the prediction, you need to look at it, and then you need to go through and type in what you think it is. So this is where you need to pause, do this, and then run it, because I'm going to run it soon, and then you're going to need to, and I'm also going to explain it, so kind of give some of the answer away. You need to pause, do this. So with this, let's look at the code. Var x position equals 50. And then we have ellipse x position 350, 100, 100. Now if you remember, right, it's x, y, width, and height. X position is 50. So if we could just assume this is 50, this is 50, so therefore 50, 300. So x is 50, 350 down is roughly down here, right? So x and y, and we run this, there we go, right? 350 is the center of an ellipse with 100, 100, making it a circle. So hopefully that was your prediction in that. But to quickly summarize it before you go watch the video, a variable is just a name you give to a location in memory, right? So I'm giving this. So think about it like a video game. Since we're doing video games, think about it like a video game, right? This is your save file. You're giving your save file a name. Now, normally the computer does it for you, blah, 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 date times it. But depending on your video game, you can change it. So we're giving a name. And this is what we're storing. Now, instead of the whole entire video game, all the progress, which when we get to sprites will kind of be a little more similar, but we're just saving this number into it. Now, as we'll go through, we can change it, we can move it, but this is a fundamental concept of programming, is this variable, right? So the next thing is a video. You can go ahead, again, watch that. This is a great video to watch, and it'll kind of show you some examples and everything. Watch this video, pause it, think about it. It's a great video. And then let's go just into the next piece of this lesson. So in this case, again, another prediction. Where do we think it's going to go? So the x position is 300, the y position is 100, or what's the y? Let's be clear, it says x position, what's the y? But this is the x position, this is the y position, so 300, 100. So 300, 100, 300, 100, and there we go. So if we got that all right. Now let's kind of go over some more concepts as we're thinking about this. So let me start over on this real quick, which I think this was already started over. But what it wants us to do is have this. But you need to understand what you can and can't call one and some other issues. So let's look at some of these rules when naming it, right? The concept's the same. We take this, we put it into it. However, you can't have spaces. Now, I'm going to show you what I like to do, and normally that's what they do in JavaScript. It's called camel casing. Now, Python uses this, I think called snake casing or something. But camel casing is uppercasing the first letter of each word. So you see, as soon as I do that, it's no longer broken. It has a warning. It says it's not used. And these are, as you start seeing these errors, it's good to understand kind of what they are, how they work, and what that means. But in this case, right, we have circle down here, and then this, it doesn't match, right? So that's the problem with this. What the key is, that can be really simple. I'm just going to copy it and show you an example, right? If you have this as a little o, right, it's still, look, it's still yellow, right? Because that is not the same, right? It is case sensitive, which we'll see in a second. So and then we're going to paste this one too. Now I run this. It should be broken. So in this case, we have X location, and this has that same error. So this, we just kind of talked about it here. So if we look down here, this is not a capital L. And the second piece on naming this is you can't start with a number. You can have a number. So if I call this dimension 2, we're good to go. But you cannot start with a number. And as you notice, once that's done, everything is fine, right? This was still warning us that it's not there because, and this is another good point, right? This was giving us a warning because this whole line was broken. So therefore, it didn't recognize that this was there. And there's a lot of times where you'll find an error, like this, 5, but it was actually the one above it that broke, right? So it said 5 is wrong. There was nothing wrong with 5. 5 is fine. This is perfectly fine. Line 3 was broken. So these are good examples as you're going through troubleshooting on this, that you have your variable's name and also just understanding how that works. So I run this, and we have our circle. Right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so in this case, and we'll see as we go through for variables, it's important to understand why, right? Right now, I could literally just write here 300 and 100, right? Which probably is actually what? Oh yeah, delete all that stuff from here. So this is a great example of this, right? I could have just typed this all out, or I could just type this. This all could be 50. Why don't I do this? Well, we run this. Those pedals aren't right? This is why you do variables. And again, when we get to gaming, not just to track the score, but to move stuff, to not have to do everything so difficult, right? So if I change this to 70 and I run this again, notice how I did all of that, right? So instead of typing 70 8 times, I change it up here, right? And maybe that's not enough. Let's change it to 90 and run it again. Like, as I'm testing to see what size I want, I'd have to change every single one of these pedal sizes. This is how variables work, right? This is why you have variables. So again, this is the name of it. And you'll notice once you call it again, it doesn't have var, right? Just if you watch the video, this is a reminder of the video back up here. You create it, and then you never use the var for that one again. Now I can create another var x, right? I can create var x, and then since it's 200, I'll just place this one, right? And that's an x. I can do it again, but notice the second time I use x, I don't use var, right? So these are important things to understand when you're using variables, when you're creating variables. var creates the variable. That's right. That's what var does. It creates it. So this is creating the name. Again, back to the video game example. This is the name of this creates it. This is the name of it. You're putting 90 in it. Now another thing that we'll see later is it can change, right? So let's actually do it here. So as an example. So I'm going to do pedal size equals 20. So we can very clearly see that. Don't forget my semicolon. And I run this, right? We're going to do these first 2 pedals, and then we're going to go ahead and do these 2 pedals. So 90, and we'll see this again later, but I really want you to understand, why we do this. So this allows us to just do all these 4 and just change it and do these 4. And as you're starting to do score, right? Something might happen and then the score goes up, right? So it's kind of hard to say score equals 50 and then it'll always be 50. So let's restart that, and there we go, right? First 2 pedals, change the size, second 2 pedals. Again, we will see this again in another lesson, but I want you to understand what it is. So the last pieces of these are you working on the practice, the assessment, and then the challenges. So again, just walk through the ones it tells you to do. That's all there is for this lesson. We'll see you next lesson.